Michael and Laurie has his final showdown. Let's talk about it. What's going on, everyone? This is going to be my spoiler-free review for Halloween Ends, the third and final chapter of this new Halloween H40 trilogy. This is directed by David Gordon Green once again, stars Jamie Lee Curtis in her final outing as Laurie Strode, Nick Castle in his final outing as The Shape, James U. Courtney, Andy Matichak, and a bunch of others. I'm going to go spoiler-free for this, so I'm not really going to say a whole lot spoiler-heavy. This is going to be completely spoiler-free. I will be doing an updated ranking of the Halloween series as well, so with that being said, let's talk about this. Now, if you guys are new to the channel, all my social media links are in the description box down below. It's all my social medias from Facebook to Serialized to Instagram. Pretty much all my social media links as you're seeing in the screen, as well as my Cash App and my Amazon wish list, or my channel if you like sending money in privately and if you want to help support the channel financially, or you want to see anything from my Amazon wish list. So, that being said, let's talk about Halloween Ends. 4 years after her last encounter with mass killer Michael Myers, Laurie Strode is living with her granddaughter and trying to finish her memoir. Myers hasn't been seen since then, and Laurie finally decides to liberate herself from rage and fear and embrace her life. But there's a new character in this movie who's accused of murdering a boy that he was babysitting, and it ignites a cascade of violence and the terror that forces Laurie to confront the evil that she can't control. When it comes to this new Halloween trilogy, I have been a pretty big fan of this trilogy for the most part. I love the 2018 film. I know there's some people who don't care for it and think it's okay and think it's not the greatest, but I like 2018 Halloween. For all of its issues, I think it's a very good Halloween movie. Halloween Kills, I've actually grown to appreciate the movie since I first watched it. It has a ton of problems, but I think it did its job in what it needed to do. It doesn't work for everyone, but I enjoyed it. And as far as the overall Halloween series goes, I enjoy a good few of these movies. It's only Halloween Resurrection and The Revenge of Michael Myers I'm not really a fan of, even though Halloween Resurrection is one of my guilty pleasures, and that is a nostalgic movie for me because that was my first Halloween movie. The two Rob Zombie remakes, over time I have varying opinions on one of them. The remake, I loved at first, but I thought it was really frustrating. And I have grown over the years to enjoy the second one, even though it's got a shit ton of problems that I cannot deny. So going into this timeline, I was excited to see how this whole Michael Laurie conclusion was going to go out. And I will say this without giving any spoilers away. I am pretty conflicted when it comes to this movie. There is a lot of things in this movie I definitely admired them going for, and there's also a lot of things in this movie I am pretty conflicted with. A lot of the varying reactions. This is a Halloween film in the series that you are either going to be for this, you will either be against this. And there's going to be people like me who are just, it's okay. Starting off with the pros, because there is some good in this movie. I will say the cinematography here is once again very good. I think David Gordon Green and his cinematographer of this movie, who's been the cinematographer for all three films, they do a very good job at keeping that aesthetic, keeping that visual flair of the other Halloween movies in this trilogy. And it's a very well shot and a very well lit movie. There are certain camera tricks they use, certain things they play around with the camera I think is very well done. I will also say the score by the Carpenters and of course Daniel Davies, that is a very great creative score. I think they take a lot of liberties with the score. But it is a very good score for what you get in this film. And I will say I do think the score does do its job. The kills, for when they are there, you do get some good kills in this movie. It's not a lot of kills, so if you're expecting full-blown carnage, I would keep your expectations in check. There are some kills in this movie, but there's not a whole lot of killing going on in this movie. Hey, James Jude Courtney and Nick Castle is a shape. For the scenes they have in this movie, they are very good. I do like the fact that we see a Laurie Strode who's trying to move on with her life. And she's trying to let go of the rage and the revenge for what's happened. And I do like a lot of that. Some interesting choices that they were trying to go for in here. You also have this new character, Rohan Campbell. I can't say much about his character, Corey, but for what he's given in the movie, I like what they do in this. There are some things here that I don't like certain decisions they make in this final film. I do like the performances for the most part in this movie. You have some good acting in here. Jamie Lee Curtis, once again, if this is the way she's going to go out, I think she does a very strong job once again. I've always thought Jamie Lee Curtis is the best thing about these newer films, and even in the multiple timelines, she has carried this character, and that's no different here. Andy Matichek, I've liked her ever since 2018 film, and before I just go any further, I would say this is one of the most beautiful horror actresses I've seen, and I would love to see what else she does outside the genre after this.
Kick-ass.
Putting that aside, she was great once again. There are some things about this character I don't really like all that much, which we'll get into in my negatives, but I will say she did her job as well. And even some of the other actors, like Will Patton and Kyle Richards, they're not in it as much, but I do think they do what they have to do for the screen time they get. Interesting ideas they do play with. And when you do get what you're coming for when it comes to the kills of this film, you get that. And when we get that big confrontation with Michael and Laurie, it is satisfying for the most part. Unfortunately, the things that frustrates me is that it does take a while to get there, and I'm just going to be blunt. I don't think the movie needed to go for a 4-year later time jump, because the original plan was supposed to have all of these newer films take place on one continuous night. And it's pretty evident as in the writing and throughout the entirety of this movie that though the COVID changes did cause this movie to be shifted a lot in the writing. Because this took place after Halloween Kills with the alternate ending, and you could have still had the same story just in the same night as Halloween Kills. And I think that is one of the biggest derivatives of this trilogy, is that when you get to the third film, it feels like, because of what happened during the pandemic, it does feel like the story is very shifted here. There's also this whole character, again, which I just praised him in the positives, in terms of Corey, which is nice to see him here, and I do like some of the things they try to do with him, but I don't think he needed to be in this last film to set up something else. You could, if he was in the first two films, and there were some ideas they tried to do in the first two films that's in here, if there were some of those ideas were introduced in the first film of this trilogy, I think it would have been much more fluent and much more coherent. But for the final film, where this is supposed to be Laurie and Michael, it just feels mismarketed at times. Some of the writing and some of the character decisions made here doesn't really stick the landing. Like with Allison, you have this whole thing where, of course, she wants to get out of Haddonfield, which is not a problem. It's just some decisions like having her have a new love interest, and this whole back and forth with her and Laurie after her mom died in the last movie 4 years earlier. I think a lot of those writing decisions doesn't really pay off as much as it should. When you do get to the big fight here, I will say, even though I enjoy the big fights, I will say it does kind of feel like this movie is kind of edited down a little bit. Because I could tell this should have been the longest one for the conclusion they had, and who knows, maybe they'll pull Jurassic World Dominion and give this a extended cut with more minutes. I haven't seen the extended cut of Jurassic World Dominion, but I feel this movie and Halloween and Jurassic World Dominion does share the same problem, where it is what you want to see, but is very mismarketed. I'm sure once I see the extended cut of Jurassic World Dominion, I'll think differently, but for this, is because this is the final film in the trilogy, it kind of just feels like this is stuff at the last minute. And I'm not going to put any blame on David Gordon Green and the filmmakers. They had to do the best they could in this COVID violent situation. But I felt like there are just certain elements here that doesn't really quite work for the story and for the sake of this trilogy. And I can tell they had a plan. I just feel like when you get to the last movie here, I feel like they should have took the big fight and made that into Halloween Kills, and then have this be other things in the story and other problems I would go into, but I don't want to give anything else away. So I will just conclude my overall thoughts. Overall, Halloween Ends, I think this is a satisfying enough conclusion here. I do have a lot of things I like about this. I respect a lot of the ambitions here. Some of the ambitions works, some are a bit conflicting, and some are a bit frustrating. I can say I did have a decent time with this one, but as a fan of the first two films in this trilogy, I wish I could say I loved this overall. This is a pretty complicating movie that I overall enjoy in the Halloween series, but as a finale to this era of Halloween films, as a supposed finale to this franchise, I will say this is a very complicating and frustrating film. There are things I like about it, but there's a lot of things that frustrates me here. So, know who you are if you are a Halloween fan. If you're going into this looking for your traditional Halloween movie, I think you will be disappointed at it. But if you can accept this for what it is, I think you will enjoy it. Or if you're just pretty conflicted and expected better like I did, I could say this is a movie you should probably wait to watch on Peacock. Well, that's going to do it for the video that you just watched. I will have my channel here, so you would like to see anything here, click the channel icon, subscribe for more. I will also leave a video and maybe a playlist here, so in case you want to see what I'm about. As always, stay up Assassinus, join the Assassinus, and you guys keep it cool.